Let's see just a little bit. And then if he's boring as we'll move on.
Well, thank you for having us out here to Ohio. You know, President Trump has said you are outstanding, but when you look at what decides elections, the vice presidential pick rarely matters. How are you going to prove him wrong?
Well, I think President Trump's right about that, actually. I think most people were voting for Donald Trump or for Kamala Harris. Donald Trump delivered rising wages and a secure border. Kamala Harris has delivered an open border.
I really can't tell if he's wearing eyeliner. I can't tell. Oh, we didn't get a chance to talk about it, but the JD Vance drag photos. Oh my God. Oh my God. Really quickly, this is the perfect time to bring it up. The fact that people found these pictures. I hate you, the Daily Beast. I hate you. Let me find a different stupid Daily Beast. His eyes are always heavy in eyeliner. You can't see it in all his videos. It's crazy. There was another photo. This isn't both of them. Well, let me find him. One sec.
And falling wages relative to inflation and groceries and housing and so forth. So I think that he's actually right, that most people, when they cast their ballots, they're basing it based on who the presidential nominee is, not the vice presidential nominee. It's just straightforward political reality. I think Donald Trump.
Can you imagine going on an interview and being like, no, I don't matter. People aren't going to vote or not vote because of me anyways. They're going to vote because of Donald Trump. That's so sad, man. Oh my God, vouch for yourself, girly. Oh, man. So these photos surfaced, which is just amazing. JD Vance here on the left, sans wig. JD Vance here on the right, wig. Wig snatched. And also this, where he was Lady Vance. Oh my God, dude. Oh my God. He's definitely wearing eyeliner in these. Okay, he has to be. He's kind of serving. He's kind of like a natural in with the camera. Wait, like. Actually, wait. He could have been so good at serving. All right.
Trump's right.
So you were there to deliver some of the punches.
Well, I'm there to help define our opposition a little bit. I think that, unfortunately, Kamala Harris has run a campaign where every time she's in front of voters, a teleprompter is in between. She doesn't really talk to
Also, sorry, my favorite thing about it is, like, the people, a lot of the conservatives that get ousted as having done drag, or the ones that do it very openly, like, what's his name? Steven Crowder. My favorite thing about these people, they did it because it was fun, right? Rudy Giuliani. Yes, exactly. They did it because it was fun, because it's like, yeah, who doesn't want to just have some fun, you know, dress up, change genders for a day. Everybody knows, you know, like it's all good. It's all chill. You're just having fun, dressing up, you know, within normal human social experiences. But the idea that you like that hobby a little bit more than other people and you do drag more often, it like blows their mind. It's like, I don't know how to tell you this, man. Every single hobby has casuals, normies, and then the tryhards that love that thing. Every hobby, every single hobby that you can think of. Maybe some people only like to doodle on like the side of their notebook, and other people, they like drawing so much that they do it for work. Maybe some people like to fucking feed in my games over and over and over again and just die in my lane over and over again, and then tell me that they have better shit to do, except you check their hours and they have thousands of hours in that shithole game. And then other people actually play the game. It's the same thing with drag. Some dudes want to do it once on like Halloween or something, or at like a party, at a frat party for funsies. And other people are like, dude, this was fun. I want to do this more often. It's not complicated. It's pretty simple. They only care when it comes to kids. I mean, no, they don't only care when it comes to kids, but they always like to use kids because it's an easy line of attack. The reality is that when they have had either drag performers at any adult White House events or people who have done drag who work at the White House, they call those people out too. They're like, can you believe Biden would hire someone who does drag? It's like, what? I don't give a fuck. I literally don't care. That's crazy. That's crazy.
The media, like at all. She hasn't answered, I think, a single tough question from a reporter. So yeah, one of my jobs is to get out there and just make sure the American people know that this is a person who supported open borders, who suspended deportations, who stopped the Remain in Mexico policy that kept a lot of Americans safe. And of course, my job is to help govern once we actually get elected. But I think, again, most people are voting for Donald Trump or for Kamala Harris. That's just the way it is.
So let's talk about the vision for the country that you're offering. You supported the Supreme Court ruling recently on mifepristone, the so-called abortion pill, that ruled opponents lacked the legal right to sue over the FDA approval.
That's right.
This drug is used in like 60% of all abortions in the United States. In a Trump-Vance administration, would you use the FDA to block access to this drug?
Well, no. What the president has said very clearly is that abortion policy should be made by the states, right? You, of course, want to make sure that any medicine is safe, that it's prescribed in the right way, and so forth. But the president wants individual states to make these decisions because, look, Margaret, California is going to have a different abortion policy from Ohio, which is going to have a different abortion policy from Alabama.
But that was actually different because after Dobbs, the Supreme Court took up this case.
Yeah, but like you said,
as different.
Sure, but like you said, on a matter of legal standing. But I think that what we really want is when states and voters in those states make decisions, we of course want the states and the federal government to respect those decisions. And that's what President Trump has said is consistently, we need to get out of the culture war side of the abortion issue. We need to let the states decide their specific abortion policy. And look, what President Trump and I want to do on family policy is make it easier for families to start in the first place. We want to bring down housing costs so that if you have a baby, there's actually a place to raise that baby. We want to increase and expand the child tax credit. We want to make it easier for moms.
This is like literally bullshit, dude. This is literally bullshit. Why even bother with interviews if you don't matter? Exactly. Yeah. Yep. You got to watch JD Vance get ball busted by Dana Fash? Oh, really? Why does he look slightly melted? He kind of always looks like a little bit of a wax sculpture, dude.
Moms and dads to not be shocked by these surprise medical bills when they go to an out-of-network provider. We're working on all this stuff, and I think that's ultimately how we turn down the temperature a little bit, is to make it easier to choose life in the first place. Because, you know, when you talk to women, you talk to moms and dads, a lot of times they feel like if you have a pregnancy, especially an unexpected pregnancy, there just aren't options. We want to provide more options so that people are raising families in a thriving and happy way in this country.
So at his presser this past week, Donald Trump seemed to indicate he was open to restrictions on mifepristone. He was asked by a reporter about this, and he said there are many things on a humane basis that you can do, but also give a vote. So he did seem to be indicating he's open to restrictions on this particular drug.
Look, I think what he said...
Are you saying that's wrong?
Well, I think what he said, Margaret, is, first of all, even some of the reporters who were in the room in that press conference said it wasn't clear what the reporter was asking.
My favorite thing about JD Vance, it seems like his job is just to be forced to answer questions on behalf of Donald Trump, but poorly.
Maybe he couldn't hear that person super clearly. So I don't want to put words in President Trump's mouth. What he has said very clearly in the debate...
He's like an overpaid janitor.
...is that he agrees with the Supreme Court decision, but more importantly, he wants these decisions to be made by the states. I think that is the President Trump vision for the Republican Party.
Because you personally signed on as the senator to a letter to the DOJ demanding it shut down all mail-order abortion operations under the Comstock Act. So would you seek to enforce that law differently? Well,
what we said in that letter, Margaret, is that we want doctors to prescribe this stuff to ensure that it's safe. I mean, we do this with antibiotics. We do this with a lot of antidepressants. And we just want the FDA to make sure that doctors are prescribing this in a safe way. That's all that we ever said. And I believe that that is how President Trump feels about this, is, again, you want the states to make these determinations. You also want to make sure the FDA is ensuring that these medications are safe for anybody who's taken them.
It's been on the market for decades, and the FDA does say it is safe, but would
antibiotic, Margaret, antibiotics are safe, but we want to make sure they're prescribed by doctors and that doctors are properly monitoring this stuff so that people don't get hurt. And
of course,
Margaret, we've talked now, I think, for 6 questions about abortion.
I'm still trying to get a clear answer. So for an FDA commissioner that you would be part of choosing, where that commissioner stands on this drug, would that determine whether or not they are chosen to be put in this key role?
I think President Trump has clearly said there are no litmus tests on this particular issue. He just wants to make sure that drugs are safe and effective before they're out there in the market. And of course, that doctors are properly controlling this stuff so that people don't get hurt. And again, Margaret, I mean, we talk about abortion. I think President Trump's views on abortion are extremely clear. What's interesting, of course, is that President Trump is trying to find some common ground on this issue. And you have Democrats who have supported abortion right up to the moment and sometimes even beyond the moment of birth, which is just sick stuff. And I think it's such a
this is my favorite lie. This is my favorite lie, that Democrats support post-birth abortion. Show me one. Show me one. Show me one Democrat. One. Literally one. Name a woman. Okay?
It's not accurate.
It is accurate.
Oh, yes. Fucking call them out, dude. Come on.
In fact,
Dude, what is this? I'm always so curious about.
Who've supported abortion right up to the moment and sometimes even beyond the moment of birth, which is just sick stuff. And I think it's such a contrast.
That's not accurate.
I'm always curious about who has to design these like interview rooms. Who made this decision? Who made these decisions? The random ass books. Ah, yes. Everyone's favorite room. Carpet, 2 chairs. Dining table with 2 lamps and some books on it. Awful carpet. This shit looks terrible. Oh my. Anyway, sorry. ADHD.
It is accurate. In fact, the Born Alive Act, multiple members.
He flails so good in the Dana interview. Okay, wait. Maybe let's take a little peek in this one. One sec. 1.2 million views.
Thank you so much for doing this.
Oh, no.
Senator.
Thank
so
you.
within a week of you being named on the VP ticket, the Democratic nominee changed. And you guys seem to be struggling a little bit with how to approach the new dynamic. How are you approaching your new opponent and the new ticket?
Yeah, well, I think it's pretty straightforward, actually. We're running against a set of policies that I think have failed the American people, and we're running to a set of policies, President Trump's 4 years in office, that I think really succeeded for the American people. And I think that what's different about it, and you're right, Dana, it is different, but what's different about it is that we're running against a different person who a lot of Americans just don't know. And so I think we have to remind people that President Trump delivered lower prices, lower inflation, a prosperous and peaceful world, and also a secure border. And Kamala Harris's policies have produced the exact opposite. Now, that was an easier case to make when Joe Biden was in there because people associate Joe Biden with the policies. But I think Kamala Harris clearly owns the policies of the Biden-Harris administration, especially when we consider the fact that, as we've all learned over the last few months, Joe Biden clearly isn't capable of doing the job. And so I think that drives home that Kamala Harris really has been the one calling the shots. I mean, how could she not? I think Joe Biden doesn't really know where he is.
Kamala Harris has been calling the shots. As who?
Well, I think she has to have been, right? Because if she's not calling the shots, Dana, then who is? And I do think it drives home something that's fundamentally dishonest about the way that Vice President Harris and also a lot of senior Democrats have approached.
Wait, she's so cunty. Says who? Oh my God. Okay, wait.
If you remember, for months, even years, the argument was that Joe Biden was sharp. He could clearly do the job. And the minute that he performed poorly in that debate and he became political dead weight, you have Kamala Harris and everybody else trying to throw him overboard. But I think the more troubling question is, why did so many senior Democrats, including the vice president, cover for him? And if Joe Biden wasn't capable of doing the job, as even a lot of Democrats say now, was Kamala Harris in charge or was somebody else in charge? And that's a real issue.
There's no evidence that Kamala Harris threw him overboard. But I want to move on to...
He's so mad. I'm not gonna lie, dude. Why does he look kind of taxidermied? He looks like it's giving like bloated corpse a little bit. Just a little bit. Bad Botox maybe? Question mark. Bad facelift? Question mark. Alcohol? Maybe.
Something that Governor Walz has called you and Donald Trump, and that is weird.
Sure.
And it is taken off.
Giving funeral makeup stuff.
The New York Times reports that when Donald Trump was asked about it, he said, "Not me, they're talking about JD."
Well, certainly they've levied that charge against me more than anybody else, but I think that it drives home how they're trying to distract from their own policy failures. I mean, look, this is fundamentally schoolyard bully stuff. They can accuse me of whatever they want to accuse me of. As Harry,
I like how when conservatives spend a decade doing nothing but smearing their opponents, it's based, and then when liberals try it for 2 seconds, you're just distracting from policy. Mm-hmm.
Truman
Do
once
you think he fucked the couch and drag? Definitely. I mean, definitely. Are you kidding me?
said, if you can't take the heat, stay out of the kitchen. And I'm doing this because I think that me being vice president will help improve people's lives. So I accept their attacks, but I think that it is a little bit of projection, Dana. If you think about, just take a couple of days ago, Tim Walz gives this big speech. He's been announced as the VP nominee. And I remember when I had just been announced as the VP nominee, I gave my big speech and I saw my wife and I gave her a big hug and a kiss because I love my wife and I think that's what a normal person does.
Phrasing. Phrasing, man. Because the way you said that made it seem like you did it because you think that's what normal people do. There's something about his cadence that feels like a robot. I don't know why.
Tim Walz gave his wife a nice, firm Midwestern handshake and then tried to sort of awkwardly correct for it. So I think that what it is two people, Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, who aren't comfortable in their own skin because they aren't comfortable with their policy positions for the American people. And so they're name calling instead of actually telling the American people how they're going to make their lives better. I think that's weird, Dana, but look, they can call me whatever they want to.
You're saying Tim Walz doesn't.
I don't know why conservatives have been trying to make weird a thing for them. You don't look at bad policy or good policy and say, that's weird. That's not what that word means, stupid. Weird is like getting called a couch fucker. Okay. All right. That's what weird is. All right. All right. Like, I'm rubber, you're glue. Like, that's not, as Liv said, they don't understand why weird is fucking them up, and that's very funny. They don't understand. They literally can't figure it out. They can't figure it out. What side are you on? I'm on the side that gives Twitch chatters more rights than other people, okay? I don't know whose side that is, but whichever side that one is, okay?
Doesn't have affection for his wife. I don't even understand that.
I said that he acted weird, which he did.
I'm not on that side. Sean, please.
On a national stage in front of his wife and in front of millions of Americans who presumably were watching at home. And I think that it's projection, Dana. Look, I think this election should be about who's going to solve the inflation crisis, who's going to make groceries and housing more affordable, who's going to secure that southern border. Kamala Harris's record is that she supported all the policies that made that problem worse, Dana. We're trying to say we're going to take the country in a different direction. I really think that it's important to point this out, Dana. Their entire campaign has not been about, here's our policy for how we're going to make your life better, or here's what's wrong with Donald Trump and JD Vance's policies. We're going to name call and hope that you don't notice that we don't have an agenda. That is the entire Democrat approach to this election.
They have done both. They have both policies, and they are trying to define
Dana,
you as well.
If you go to Kamala Harris's campaign page right now, they still don't have a policy.
Well, let's talk about
policy positions about what they're going to do. I think that's really insulting to Americans.
You started out talking about the policies in this interview, but you have.
Oh my God, he's so mad. Oh my God, he's so mad. Line was ice cold, dude. Yeah. Oh my God. Dag 00 Daz Kid. Thank you so much for the tier 1. Thank you. The most unnerving thing to me about Vance is his forced permanent smile that he uses while waiting for questions and prompts, even while talking. Someone else pointed out that Mr. Beast sort of has the same sort of smile. And I've always found it unnerving, and I'm glad somebody else put it into words. But I don't know if you guys saw it. Now is a good time to make those jokes after everything came out with Mr. Beast. But I don't know if I can find it. I might not have saved it. Where is it? Maybe I can find it. What's that? Let's see. Mr. Beast. It was this one. Well, it wasn't this one, but it was a different. Here it is. I found it. It was a Dexerto post saying half the things that are said are not true. I wouldn't be with him if they were. Mr. Beast's girlfriend, Thea Buyusin. This is this is an AI generated name. Defends the YouTuber following most recent allegations. Someone else put it into words really well. Never realized what a profoundly empty smile Mr. Beast has. I'm not trying physiognomy, but seriously, look at this man's face. There's something off. The problem is, like, they don't. It's the eyes. There's nothing there. Oh, yeah. Someone. I don't want to free scroll on Twitter. Wait. Free scrolling on Twitter is kind of scary. Okay. Someone screenshotted it, but I guess the post isn't available anymore. Someone screenshotted half of his face and then put the other half side by side. But let me see if I can imitate it. Where, like, look at these dead eyes, man. Oh my God. And it's like, it's usually it's just a symptom of you're in front of press and media for so long that you end up just like faking smiles as much as often as you can, which makes each individual smile less and less authentic. So instead of only smiling when you're like happy, you just smile anytime there's a camera. And then you're just like, it's like, dude, what the fuck? And it's the same exact thing with this guy, with JD Vance. He just has to feel like he has to smile to make himself seem, I don't know, like less creepy or something, but it's making him more creepy because he's always smiling.
I think that's really insulting to Americans.
You started out talking about the policies in this interview, but you have been on the campaign trail questioning Tim Walz's military record. You say it was shameful that Governor Walz retired from the military before his unit deployed to Iraq. I want to read you something that Joe Eustace, who is a veteran, he served with Governor Walz, said. He said that's a lie. He said he was as good a soldier as you'll find. I'm not trying to defend him. I hope people don't think that. What I'm trying to do is defend someone who served his country. I'm not voting for him. I'll campaign against him. But I don't think it's fair to characterize his service the way they have. Governor Walz served 24 years. He even stayed after he could have retired because of 9/11, more than the country asked of him. Do you honor his service?
Well, of course, Dana, I honor his service. And I've never criticized what Tim Walz did when he was in.
You literally said that he tried to dodge a draft.
The military. I criticized his retirement decision. And most importantly, Dana, I criticized his lying about his own record, okay? This is a guy who was captured on video saying, I carried a gun in war. He never went to war. This is a guy who's been captured on video. As other people say, he's an Afghanistan veteran. He's a veteran of a war, nodding along in agreement instead of saying, no, I did serve my country and I did it honorably, but I never went to a war zone. I'm not criticizing Tim Walz's service. I'm criticizing the fact that he lied about his service for political gain, Dana. Now, I served in the United States Marine Corps, and you know this. And look, there are a lot of things that I'm proud about. I've never lied about what I did or overstated it because it would be beneficial to me in an election. I think that's what Tim Walz did. That's what I was criticizing.
Okay. Let's talk about a few things on this, by the way. First of all, Wikipedia is literally free. You can find all this information online for free. He joins the Army National Guard a day after he turned 17. His father served in the Korean War. Blah, blah, blah. He served as a National Guard for 24 years after enlisting in 1981. During his military career, he had postings in Arkansas, Texas, Arctic Circle, New Ulm, Minnesota, Italy, and elsewhere. He trained in heavy artillery, so he was using guns while in the military. During his service, he worked in disaster response postings following floods and tornadoes, and he was also deployed overseas. Because, you know, he was in the Army National Guard. Obviously, he would be working in disaster response postings. But the thing is, he was deployed overseas. He was. Was he in like an actual armed combat zone or like a war zone? No, but like that's the vast majority of people that enlist. The vast majority of people that enlist in the military don't go to active combat zones. And it is not a good PR move for JD Vance, someone who should be trying to win over conservatives, to say, you didn't really join the military if you didn't even get sent and deployed into an active war zone. Because that's the vast majority of the people in the military. You're insulting like 90% of the people in the military. Those are your voters that you're insulting. That's not a good play, man. It's not a good play to be like, I only respect you if you were actually in an active combat zone. Also, I don't know if that Vance went to an active combat zone. Like, none of this is a good strategy. None of this is a good strategy. None of it. Brother, I never understand chatters like you. I never understand chatters like you that don't Google things before you type them for thousands of people to see on the internet. Not true. As a military veteran, almost everyone from 2003 to 2019. It took me 2 seconds to Google how many military members get deployed to active war zones. It took me 2 seconds to do that, to find about 10 to 20% of those find themselves in deployment, wind up in a combat zone. This Google is 2 seconds. It's 2 seconds. Don't you think you should Google what you're about to type in chat for thousands of people to see before you get ousted as being totally wrong? Come on, man. Have a little bit of shame. Have a little bit of shame. Please. Also, sorry, there was someone being very annoying in chat, but Denims, they left. Perfect. Denims, do you support Kamala? Do you support Kamala even though she supported the genocide in Israel? Both Kamala and Trump are bad. Scroll up. Aiden is live, Denim. He's live. He's live. Sneeko said he was down to collab with you. Are you down too since he was unbanned on Twitch? Question mark? I also didn't get to show it to you guys, sadly, but it said following since 7 minutes ago. No, guys. You have to be ride or die in here if you're a chatter, okay? You can't be unfollowing and then following just to chat some annoying shit and then unfollowing and then following to be type some more annoying shit. Not allowed. No. I will fool me once. Shame on you. Fool me twice. Shame on me. Fool me thrice. Okay.
And yes, I do think it's scandalous behavior.
You talked about one of the things that he said, weapons of war. He was talking in a campaign stop about, he was trying to talk about gun control.
Sure.
And he said, weapons of war I carried in war. I will say that the Harris-Walz campaign did say that the governor misspoke there.
Sure.
Do you accept that?
He misspoke. Another word is that he lied about it, and he didn't.
Dude, Donald Trump is your guy, dude. Okay, so I don't know if you want to go after lying. Okay.
Correct the record for 15 years until he was put under political pressure because I called it out, Dana. Whatever you want to call it, a misspeaking.
Donald Trump literally dodged the draft. Okay. And here's the thing, man. Okay, maybe some people will shame me for this, but like dying for your country sounds really nice until you remember that you live in the United States and dying for your country is just you going and like exploiting another country's resources, and you're dying so that some fucking piece of shit millionaire billionaires get to make more money, and then dying for that country doesn't seem that based anymore. So dodging a draft when you live in a shithole country, low key, I'm not gonna judge you for it. Shit, okay? It's like Israelis that dodge the draft. They're like, dude, I don't support what the fuck you guys are doing. I was just born here, man. I was literally just born here. My parents just fucking had me here. And this is my only citizenship, dude. Fuck you, dude. I am not joining the IDF. Based alert. Hello, base department. Yes, dodging drafts is based. There are instances where it's probably not based and you shouldn't dodge a draft, but there are lots of instances where dodging drafts is actually very based, like in the instances of dodging the IDF draft. However, if you're like trying to be a conservative and trying to get conservative votes, I would be a little bit careful about bringing up draft dodging to the guy who served for 20 years when your running mate is Donald Trump, a guy who dodged a draft. Okay, I just don't know. I don't know that that's a good idea, man. I just don't think that's a good idea. I just don't think so, man. Okay?
Or a lie, I think Tim Walz should have to correct the record. Now, you pointed out a soldier who defended his service. There have been a number of soldiers who served with Tim Walz who have criticized him on the exact same grounds that I have, because it's not right to misstate or to embellish what you've done, and I think that's what he did.
And on the question of when he left the National Guard, he filed his election paperwork February 10th, 2005. That was a month before the National Guard even announced that it was possible that they would deploy to Iraq, and it ended up being 2 months. He retired 2 months before they actually got the paperwork.
But on CNN last night, Dana, one of the people who was actually in charge of him said they knew they were going to deploy to Iraq in February of 2004, fall of 2004. So he knew he was going to Iraq. He decided to quit, to retire, whatever word you want to use.
Retire.
Because he wanted to run for Congress. He lied about that. He said that when he decided to retire, he did not know that he was going to Iraq. That is another untruth, as even his senior military officer said. So again, I'm not criticizing the service. I'm criticizing the dishonesty. Dishonesty spoken in favor and for the purpose of political benefit. And I think that the most important thing here, Dana, is it goes to Kamala Harris's judgment. Tim Walz is ultimately going to be the vice president. Kamala Harris is in great health. I'm sure she's going to be president if she wins for 4 or maybe even 8.
Can I just say 2 things? First of all, dude served for 24 years, okay? I don't know, like, what more you want. After 20 years, I'm pretty sure you have the right to retire. That's, like, within military rules or, like, rules of respect or whatever. 20 years, you basically, you did your time. You don't have to serve until you fucking die. That's not how that works. Okay? Second of all right, he was born 1964. He retired, let's see. In February, Walz submitted official documents to run for U.S. House of Rep. March, National Guard announced a possible deployment to Iraq. Walz publicly said that he would deploy if called upon. He retired in May. And then he actually told them that he submitted his retirement paper 5 to 7 months before he had even retired. He wanted to focus on his campaign for Congress and not want to violate the Hatch Act, which prevents some political activities by federal government employees. The problem is, one second. So he retires in 2005. How old would he have been? 1964, 40, 50, 40 or 50. he would have been 40. Like, is it, maybe I'm wrong to say this. Maybe I'm wrong to say this. Is it so bold to say that, like, the 41-year-old who's been doing the military for 20 years, who wants to maybe kind of try something else, doesn't want to be deployed at fucking 40 years old? Is that wrong? Is that immoral to say that I don't blame a 40-year-old that's been serving for 20 years to say, you know, I don't know if I've got it in me to get deployed. Okay? My knees aren't what they used to be. I guess it would also depend on if he vocally supported the war. Sure, that's also worthwhile. I would have to look that up to see. He said that he would deploy if called upon, which is like the baseline thing that he would say, right? But anyways, I just don't. I don't understand. Huh? Also, America's never not at war. When would be a good time to retire, JD? You have to die in war. That's the only good time to retire, okay?
8 years. Why did Kamala Harris choose a person who has lied about their military service? I think that is a serious lapse in judgment. And I don't want to hear from a campaign spokesperson of Kamala Harris. I want to hear Kamala Harris herself address what I just said.
You know, I've seen a lot of statements from veterans, including those you served with, saying it's just untoward to be criticizing somebody who served for 24 years.
And yeah, and I think a big part of it is that most people, I mean, I know a couple people who have served in the military, who went through basic, had military work, were deployed. And it's very bad practice to insult anyone who served for their country in any way. It doesn't matter if you were a field medic or if you were a pilot or if you were Marines or Navy or whatever. You give respect because everybody, it only works if everybody does their part. Just like, it like the way that it's bad etiquette to be like, yeah, we carried this game even without our fucking tank or support or whatever. It's like, what? You know, what? Unless they like literally were AFK, like what? It's kind of bad sportsmanship. It's just bad sportsmanship to do that. It's like, no, man, everybody has a part to play. Why are we friendly firing right now? This is weird. This is fucking weird, man.
Dana, I'm not interested in the ad hominem. I've heard from a lot of veterans groups who criticize Tim Walz. The question is, he said he served in war, and he didn't. That is a dishonesty. I couldn't care less what one or the other person says about it. I care about what the truth is. The truth is that Tim Walz didn't tell the truth. And importantly, Dana, this is about Kamala Harris's judgment. And I think that when you ask, why has Kamala Harris allowed the border to be wide open? Why has Kamala Harris supported policies that have promoted the increase in inflation? I think it goes to the heart of her judgment, and I think that that's what we should be talking about.
One last question. Donald Trump didn't serve in the military. He received a medical draft deferment for bone spurs to avoid serving in the Vietnam War, reportedly as a favor to his father. Do you find that shameful, too?
I think that Donald Trump didn't serve in the military, but he didn't lie about it, Dana. I've known Donald Trump for a long time. He really honors our veterans. He honors me for my service. Donald Trump didn't lie about serving in the military. He didn't say that he went to Vietnam when he didn't. This is the problem. I don't criticize anybody, whether they served our country or not.
I don't criticize anybody. Sure, honey, sure.
It's honorable to serve, but obviously a lot of people have
You dodging this question like Donald Trump dodged the draft.
reasons for not serving.
Bricks and glass houses, girly pop.
Criticize somebody for embellishing their record, for lying, saying, I went to war. Dana, do you think that it's a problem that he said, I went to war, but he didn't actually? That seems to be a problem to me.
Well, they've corrected that. Let's move on to...
They've corrected it by admitting that
Let's move on to another important issue to voters, and that is the issue of abortion. You wrote the foreword for a new book by Heritage Foundation President Kevin Roberts of Project 2025. Project 2025, among many other things, calls for rolling back approval of the abortion drug mifepristone. Donald Trump told me during the debate that he would not block the drug. And on Thursday, when he was asked, he didn't rule it out. So which is it?
Well, look, Dana, first of all, Project 2025 is not affiliated with the Trump campaign. Kevin Roberts is a friend of mine, but I wouldn't say that he speaks for the president in the same way I wouldn't say that he speaks for me. Now, what Donald Trump has said is that he respects the Supreme Court's opinion on the mifepristone ruling.
But let me just stop you right there.
Please.
The Supreme Court, you're a lawyer, so you know this better than I.
Sure.
The Supreme Court, all they did was say that what came to them didn't have standing. So they let it stand. A real question, a substantive question, hasn't made it to the Supreme Court. So my question for you is whether or not a Trump-Vance administration would allow mifepristone to continue to be sent around the country.
Well, President Trump won the nomination of the Republican Party. He said it to you, and he said it repeatedly, that his goal is not to block mifepristone. It's to let states make the decision on abortion policy. Now, of course, that does mean, Dana, we have to be honest about this, that California might have less restrictive
State's decision to do what?
rules than Ohio, which might have
Block it, perhaps?
less restrictive rules than Alabama. I think what President Trump is really trying to do on the abortion question is really admirable, and I wish the press was a little bit more honest about it. He's saying we've had a 50-year culture war over abortion, where unfortunately this issue has just divided the country, and he wants to provide some ground for us to come together, for states to make these decisions, for voters to make these decisions, and for us all to respect one another. That's all he's
on
proposed.
that issue, a few months ago, on the question, his position, which you've adopted, is it is up to the states. I spoke to a woman named Kate Cox. She lives in Texas.
Sure.
She was 20 weeks pregnant. Her fetus was diagnosed with a disease called, it was a deadly genetic condition called trisomy 18. She said that carrying the pregnancy, she was told this by her doctors, to term, if the fetus even survived, would hurt her chances for having more children, which she and her husband desperately wanted. Why is not allowing her to end that pregnancy helpful or supportive of expanding families like you want it to be?
Well, first of all, Dana, my heart breaks for this woman. I don't know her personally. I've certainly heard the story, and our heart breaks for her. And we want people to have healthy, happy families. And it's extremely unfortunate that sometimes, you know, medicine, the act of God, whatever happens, just doesn't work out.
Shut the fuck up.
But what the president has said, I think, very clearly is that he is not trying to prevent women who have non-viable pregnancies from...
Except for the fact that states are currently preventing women from getting abortions for non-viable pregnancies.
Getting access to the medical care
But
that they need.
allowing the states to decide, a place like Texas, which has very strict laws now, doesn't allow a Kate Cox to end a pregnancy that is fatal and could potentially hurt her ability to have more kids.
But what President Trump has said is that we are going to let voters make these decisions. And again, Texas might have a view that President Trump disagrees with. They might have a view that President Trump agrees with, but you've got to let the voters make these decisions.
So you're comfortable with that law in Texas?
So where are voters voting on these things? It's not like the people in the state can be voting on the legislation. That's not what's happening. Was there a prop in Texas?
I'm not comfortable with anything, Dana, because I'm not passing judgment on what these laws should be. You ask me my own personal...
Oh, it's so ghoulish. Oh, it's so ghoulish to say I'm not passing judgment on what these laws should be. Hold up.
I'm not comfortable with anything, Dana, because I'm not passing judgment on what these laws should be.
I'm not passing judgment on what these laws should be. Let me say two things. One, I like to have fun with politics, okay? Because I think politics is this big abyss, this big swirling black abyss. And it's very terrifying. And I think having fun with it is the only way to be sane and still be informed. But every once in a while, I remember that the abyss exists and it's real. And I see it and I look into the abyss and the abyss looks back at me. And it's this right here. Can you imagine? Come with me on this hypothetical for a second. All right. I recently watched The Good Place, so please forgive the analogy. But can you imagine there's like Democrats pass some legislation, or like there's a more specifically or more accurately, Supreme Court rules, we will not allow any more dick flattenings to happen in any of the 50 states. No more penis flatteners. And Republicans are like, I think that the states should decide where penis flattening should occur and where it shouldn't. And how. And then a bunch of women get on and say, I just don't feel comfortable passing judgment on whether or not states should allow penis flattening to occur. It's the state's right to decide to do this horrible thing. And I don't want to pass any judgment on it. What the fuck? What? What? It's like, I cannot imagine. For starters, I feel very lucky that I haven't had to go through it, but every single woman I've spoken to that has gotten an abortion has told me that it's pretty traumatic experience. Because there's always the concern and there's always the risk of like, what if I later wish I hadn't? If JD Vance's couch could get pregnant, he'd vote differently. Stop. I cannot imagine the mental burden of trying to get pregnant, getting pregnant, and then finding out a few months before your due date that the child is not viable. Like the child's not going to live more than maybe a few hours outside of the womb. And you, as the person carrying, are not allowed to make this suffering go away sooner. You're not allowed to. You live in Texas? Too bad. Yep. No, you have to go through the full period of time. Yep. Enjoy the next few months of knowing that that is not going to be a viable pregnancy. And there's nothing you can do. And you have to give birth anyways. So instead of starting the healing process sooner, instead of being like, I mean, if this is how it's going to be, then I would rather move on now, because I know if you're telling me, doctor, it's just not possible, like it's not possible at all, then I would rather get the abortion now and like at least start mentally processing the trauma. Versus, nope, you have to just continue suffering and living with this suffering. And also all of the detriments of being pregnant. And know the entire time it's not going to happen. And to say to that with such callousness, yeah, well, too fucking bad. What the fuck? What the fuck? Holy. Also, you have to enjoy over $30K in medical debt for a doomed pregnancy. Also, the woman could possibly die in some of these situations. Yeah. It's just crazy. It's crazy that I could never imagine allowing something like that to happen. Like being in charge, seeing that that's happening and being like, looks good to me. Looks good to me. Like, no, man. How about we let these people decide? And if there are women who want to carry it to term anyways, and they're like, I know that the doctor said it's not going to be viable. This is the best way for me to heal through this. Even if it doesn't work out, it's fine. I would rather just go through the entire pregnancy. That would make me feel better. Great. That's your decision to make. It's totally your decision to make. But you shouldn't be forced to do that, man. What the fuck? What, like, my cousin gave birth to a baby that didn't have a brain and pretty much moving and kicking in the womb, but independently couldn't live without the mother. So many scenarios like this that need abortions that they just ignore. It's crazy. It's crazy to me. And more lighthearted stuff and more lighthearted chat messages. Our homie, War and Peace. The person who said this about how Italy isn't a combat zone and Tim Walz was not deployed in a combat zone, even though he was deployed overseas. You posted a link, okay. But the problem is I don't know if you knew what you were posting, I guess. I looked at a report that said 77% were deployed since 2001. Not true as a military vet. Almost everyone from 2003 and 2019 was deployed. The problem is that, like, this doesn't say that these people were deployed in a combat zone. It just says 6 in 10 veterans say that they were deployed away from their permanent duty station at least once while on active duty. It doesn't say that they were deployed in combat zones, which is the thing that you were criticizing Tim Walz for, that it wasn't deployment in a combat zone. So yes, this number is very inflated because it's talking about anyone who was deployed overseas anywhere. I never said that people were not deployed. I'm saying that there's a very small number of people that are deployed into active combat zones. Okay. Oh, Wormy, hi. Okay, let's finish this Dana interview.
You ask me my own personal view. I campaigned against an Ohio referendum, but I think that we have to let voters decide. And when they speak their mind, you have to be respectful. Agree or disagree with whatever voters decide.
And also, one other thing, one more serious political take. How dare you? Fuck you. I'm going to be respectful about someone who thinks women should just suffer? What the fuck? Excuse me? No, fuck you. I will not be respectful about people suffering. And I don't think anyone should be respectful about shit like that. You're respectful about, like, opinions on whether or not gap policies should change. You're not respectful on whether or not human beings should have to suffer. Also, he was in the National Guard. They aren't even supposed to be deployed anywhere else in the U.S. Outside of the U.S., yeah.
They're going to make these decisions.
Welcome back to State of the Union.
That was amazing. Oh, wait, they're going to get more.
For my interview with GOP vice presidential nominee JD Vance.
John King is doing a project talking to voters all over swing states. He talked to Republican voters in the critical swing state, must win, I would say, swing state of Pennsylvania.
Of course.
One of them, Carol Carty, said she was almost a childless dog lady because she didn't happen to meet the right person until she was 40 years old. Another, Joan London, was offended that you don't think she has a stake in the future of the country because she doesn't have children. What do you say to key voters like that? Republicans, swing voters.
Sure.
This is biting him in the ass so hard, by the way.
Who are put off by your views?
Well, what I would say, Dana, is if you look at what I said in context, the Harris campaign has frankly lied about what I actually said. I'm pro-family. I want us to have more families, and obviously sometimes it doesn't work out, sometimes for medical reasons, sometimes because you don't meet the right person. But the point is that our country has become anti-family in its public policy. Let me just give you an example of this. So after our second child was born, my wife and I, we have 3 little kids. After our second child was born, we get the baby home from the hospital. We get this ridiculous out-of-network medical bill that is financially shocking, and we're pretty well off. And that happened because we have ridiculous laws in this country that are anti-family. I've sponsored legislation to try to fix things like that so moms and dads don't get these surprise medical bills. I think it's important for us to be pro-family. That's all that I've ever said.
If you want to be pro-family, I want to, because you do criticize, as you just did, the Democratic Party for being anti-family.
I do.
You called out
Fucking get his ass.
Kamala Harris and Pete Buttigieg in particular. Kamala Harris has 2 stepchildren. Pete Buttigieg and his husband have adopted twins. Do you recognize them as parents and more broadly as being part of families?
Well, of course I do, Dana. I mean, you know my life story. I was actually raised. I was raised, but Dana, I was raised.
By name.
Oh my God, she's about to turn the oven on high.
One of the first people that I gave a hug to after my RNC convention speech was my stepmom, who's been an incredibly important person in my life.
So she's not childless.
My kids call her Mamaw. Of course she's not childless, but again,
you called her that.
The criticism, I certainly did not call my own stepmother childless.
Kamala Harris.
I criticized Kamala Harris for...
Oh my God, she's eating. She's not leaving any crumbs. Go, get after him. Get him.
being part of a set of ideas that exists in American leadership that is anti-family. I never, Dana, criticize people for not having kids. I criticize people for being anti-child. And I do think that Kamala Harris has made some bizarre statements. She has said things like, it's reasonable not to have children over climate change. I think it's the exact opposite message we should be sending to our young families. I want to expand the child tax.
How is that anti-child? Saying you can make decisions on whether or not you want to have kids based on the things that are happening in the world is not anti-child. That's, hey, we live in very uncertain times. Look at the ways that these uncertain times are impacting people.
Credit. I want to stop those surprise medical bills. I want to make housing more affordable so that if you have a young family, you can actually afford to put them in a home. And I think that it is unfortunate that so much of our public leadership has become anti-family. One final point on this, Dana, if you go back to the...
And yeah, what happened to let voters decide, motherfucker?
One thing that really frustrated me and motivated some of these comments is we were at a point where we were kicking kids out of school. We were masking 3-year-olds and putting the masks back on them, even as they were trying to rip them off at school. I think that if we had more people who took the right perspective and had a little bit more understanding of how little kids actually operate, we would not have made so many of those mistakes.
Looks like Wormy was, I can't tell if she's putting her paws on the power button. 1 second. I don't want her to turn off the stream.
That's a whole nother conversation because people didn't know. Because people didn't know as much because it was literally a novel virus.
But Danny, you asked me about okay, you've now asked me 3 questions about comments that I made 3 years ago. I wonder what Kamala Harris thinks about the fact that she supported policies that opened the American southern border. I wonder what Kamala Harris thinks.
Well, she's not interviewing Kamala Harris. She's interviewing you, stupid. What? You keep asking me questions. What is this, an interview?
It's about the fact that she lied to the American people. I'm interviewing you, not about Harris.
Oh my God. I did not rewatch this, just to be very clear. Okay, I swear.
Middle facility for the office. You are interviewing me, Dana, because I respect the American people enough to sit down for an interview.
I appreciate that.
He just has like a canned response for everything. Oh my God. You're interviewing me because I respect Americans. That's why you're doing it. It's like, what the hell?
Harris has been the nominee for 3 weeks. She hasn't sat down for a real interview.
Believe me, we are asking. You're not going to get a disagreement there.
But the point is, Dana, you've got me for 15 minutes or however long you have me. We should be talking about public policies that matter. How are we going to lower inflation? How are we going to reduce the cost of food and housing? How are we going to close down that southern border? We've talked so little about that. We've talked a lot more about a sarcastic remark I made 3 years ago. I think we should talk about the issues that most Americans care about.
I only asked you one question about that. I asked you about policies, and I was asking about the military record that you brought up.
Whenever he lists reasons that people don't have kids, it's that they didn't meet the right person or medically that they couldn't have. He never suggests it's okay to not want kids if you simply don't want them and that it's intentional. Yeah, because that's not acceptable in his books. You don't want to have kids because you want to make the choice to not have kids? That's disgusting. How dare you? I love how conservatives are always the first people to say, well, if you didn't want kids, close your legs. And then when women are like, oh, okay, sure. They're like, wait, what are you doing? Go have kids. We need you to have kids. Wait, what do you want? Do you want me to not have kids? Do you want me to have? I thought you didn't want. What, you want me to? What the fuck? I'm not doing what you want in my life. What? I'm sorry. So you want me to go get married and then have kids with the person that I marry and then maintain this relationship? For why? For you? And if I don't have kids, that's bad. But if I have kids outside of marriage, that's bad. And if I have kids in this way, that's bad. And what? I thought this was America, dude. What the fuck are you talking about, man? What the hell? Oh, and IVF is bad. And birth control is bad. And I just don't understand. Pogo Blues, thank you for the 16 months.
Up, nobody else did of Tim Walz.
Give me one couch, I'll open my legs. JD Vance be like.
One last question. This is on policy.
Please.
The Federal Reserve.
Yeah.
Donald Trump said this week that he feels strongly that the president should have at least a say when it comes to the Federal Reserve and how to handle interest rates. Do you agree that a president should direct the Federal Reserve on how to handle interest rates?
Well,
I do not want to open that can of worms. Oh, God, no. I do not want the president to have access to the fucking Fed. Jesus Christ.
Direct. That's not what he said. He said the president should have a say. But one, I absolutely agree with what he said.
Right now,
no,
the
he should
president
not.
doesn't have a say.
Well, the president has a say in the sense that the president appoints the Federal Reserve governors. But he's saying, to be clear, President Trump is saying, I think, something that's really important and actually profound, which is that the political leadership of this country should have more say over the monetary policy of this country. I agree with him. That should fundamentally be a political decision. Agree or disagree, we should have America's elected leaders having input about the most important decisions.
Yeah, and then we'll have our American leaders inputting on like climate change, and then inputting on like what is it called? I don't want to call it farming regulations, but basically all the shit related to like Roundup, for example. Yeah, we should have American government and the American president actually be the people to you know, make those decisions on what's safe and what's not safe. EPA. Yeah, I think that makes sense, right, guys? Right? That the president should decide what's food safe and what's not food safe. I think that that's a great idea. I don't think that the scientists should be the ones doing that. No. No. Fuck the experts. They don't know what they're doing. Oh, War and Peace. Thanks for the tier 1. I like how often he has to say, Trump is trying to say, I think. I mean, these interviews are literally just Trump sending his little bitch boy to go do them for him because he doesn't want to do them because he's too busy drowning in lawsuits. That's what these are.
Confronting our country.
That would be a huge change, just so people understand that.
It would be a huge change, but whether the country goes to war, what our interest rates are, these are important questions that American democracy should have important answers for. And I think all President Trump is saying is that, look, it's kind of weird that you have so many bureaucrats making so many important decisions. If the American people don't like our interest rate policy, they should elect somebody different to change that policy. Nothing should be above democratic debate in this country when it comes to the big.
No. No, actually. I don't think Americans should be voting on like environmental policy or the interest rate. They don't know enough about it, actually. No. No, dude. We've learned this lesson time and time again with the player base in many video games, thinking they want one thing, getting it, and then realizing, oh, that actually was bad. Actually, maybe the game developers knew what they were doing. No.
Questions confronting the United States.
Okay, one last question.
Please.
And I can't believe I have to ask you this, but I do, because Donald Trump has been attacking Kamala Harris's racial identity.
He has not been, but ask your question.
Well, he questioned her racial identity. He said a number of years ago she happened to turn black. Her father is Jamaican. Do you believe Kamala Harris is black?
I believe that Kamala Harris is whatever she says she is, but I believe importantly that President Trump is right that she's a chameleon. She
How did you fumble that? That one was really easy. All you had to say was yes.
That one was one thing in front of one audience. She pretends to be something different in front of another audience.
That was the most softball question she's thrown in this whole interview, and he flubbed it.
Look, Dana, she's not running a political campaign. She's running a movie. She only speaks to voters behind a teleprompter. Everything is scripted. She doesn't have her policy positions out there. She hasn't answered why she wanted to ban fracking, but now she doesn't. She wanted to fund police, but now she doesn't. She wanted to open the border, but now she doesn't. She should have to answer for why she presents a different set of policies to one audience and a different set of policies to another audience. And I think that's what President Trump is getting at. This is a fundamentally fake person. She's different depending on who she's in front of.
With respect, you changed your position on an important thing, which is Donald Trump.
Of course I did.
And so why are you not a chameleon?
Because, Dana, I've explained to the American people what's different. People change their minds when the facts change. They should. But if you want to be the people's vice president or president, you should have to stand before an interviewer and say, this is why I changed my mind.
Okay, so why did you change your mind?
Everybody who's seen that I criticized Donald Trump since he asked the question, here are two things.
You didn't just criticize him. You said he could be America's Hitler.
Well, that's a...
fucking eat. Oh my God.
And I didn't say that exactly, but set that to the side. What I said about Donald Trump.
The text on the screen is eating him up. I just noticed that Vance downplays past criticism of Trump. Oh my. They're like flambeing him on live television.
About Donald Trump, two things that really change. First of all, I didn't think Donald Trump would be a good president. He was a great president. Wages were rising. The world was more peaceful. Remember, when Donald Trump was running for president the first time, they said he would start World War III. He brought more peace to the world than any president of my lifetime. The second thing, Dana, is I believed, and I'm ashamed of it, I believed a lot of the media lies about Donald Trump in 2016. I believe that he said things like, for example, the media said Donald Trump accused all Mexicans of being rapists and criminals. You actually look at what he said, he did not.
Are you sure the strategy is I was a dumb fuck and the media tricked me? You sure that one is the strategy you want to go for? Okay.
Not say that at all. And I think it's important when you see something, you change your mind, and that's all I've done. And my pitch to the American people would be, I imagine a lot of folks who are thinking about voting for Donald Trump in 2024, maybe they've bought in to the media lies about him. Think for yourself, look at what he actually said, and I think you'll find that he's, one, a very engaging guy, but two, was a very good president.
There aren't media lies. We play him and we let him speak for himself, and so people are getting exactly.
I'm not accusing you of lying, Dana. You know I like you, but the media lies from time to time.
I know you're not, but people hear him for himself. Last question.
Please.
Are you going to debate Tim Walz?
Of course. I want to debate Tim Walz. I think it's important, and I think that it goes to a very fundamental difference between the Trump-Vance ticket and our opposition. We believe in talking to the media. We believe in answering questions. We believe in debating. I think it's really important. I mean, look, I'm asking the American people to make me their vice president. It's really important to stand before the American people to make that case, and I'm going to keep on doing it in whatever forum I get the opportunity. So
we look forward to it. Thank you so much for sitting down and taking my questions.
Of course. Thank you for coming here.
Dude, she ate him the fuck up. Oh my fucking God. Oh my God, that was so bad for him. That was great. I only wish it was longer. Oh my God. Wait, I don't know if I've ever seen this campaign ad.
Are you a racist? Do you hate Mexicans? The media calls us racist for wanting to build Trump's wall. Joe Biden's open border is killing Ohioans. With more illegal drugs and more Democrat voters pouring into this country, we will put America first.
I've always thought campaigning on the border issue as like a state like Ohio was always strange. Texas, I get. New Mexico, I get. California, I get. I mean, I get all the ones that are on the border. I get that, right? That makes sense. Ohio? That was fucking weak sauce, man. What the... Are you a racist? You should vote for Trump. What? Do you hate Mexicans is an actual ad. It's some dystopian craziness. You know, the funny thing is, one of my Mexican friends told me that, anecdotally, there are a lot of conservatives, there are a lot of immigrants and a lot of South American and Central American immigrants, Mexican or otherwise, that come to America that are actually pretty conservative. And that's just because religion is very popular in Mexico, and religion tends to make people more conservative. So there's actually a large number of conservative Mexicans and conservative Hispanic people that are immigrants. But the problem is, and I quote from my Mexican friend, conservatives can't stop being racist for 2 seconds, so they will never get their vote. And if they would just stop being racist for 2 fucking seconds, they would get so many new votes. As a Mexican, I can confirm. Because a lot of social issues can be conservative leaning with immigrants. But they just like abortion, right? Or trans laws or gay laws or any of that stuff, right? But they just can't stop being racist. They can't do it. They can't do it. And it's that, isn't that a little bit sad? Isn't that actually a little bit sad? Don't be racist challenge impossible. My dad's a Mexican immigrant. He votes Republican, talks about the border wall, even though he's Mexican. I don't understand the cognitive dissonance. Yeah. You can just say Catholics can be worried about stuff. Yeah. Yeah. Well, because, yeah, I would say that it's more a symptom of like religion than it is any other like cultural values or whatever the fuck racists tend to say.